Okay, thanks for watching that little video clip, and now I'm going to talk about the gimbal that I use to film it with, the new Zhiyun Crane M3. So this is a very small, very lightweight gimbal. It's about half the size of other single-arm gimbals, and that's the reason why I was excited to try it out and make this video clip with it. So the size and weight are awesome, but I have to be honest about how it performs with the A7S III specifically. I didn't try it with any other cameras, but with this camera and my 28mm lens and my ND filter on the lens, it definitely was not as smooth, was not as stable as my bigger gimbals like the DJI RS2 or RS-C2, just because they're bigger and stronger. So the main problems I was having with the Crane M3 were, one, I saw my footsteps in the shot, little shakes from my feet hitting the ground, or I would see jerky mechanical pans and tilts. Or in POV mode, it would also have a mechanical jerky look. And actually the only way that I was able to get footage that I was really satisfied with was by stabilizing in post using Sony's Catalyst Browse software. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's gyro post stabilization. So this is a post stabilization technique that takes metadata from the A7S III camera or some of Sony's other newer mirrorless cameras and uses that metadata to crop and reframe your image in post. So yes, there is a crop. I usually cropped about 3 to 5% on average on each of the shots that you saw. So that is the trade-off here. And it also takes more time because you have to re-render your image after you crop it. Catalyst Browse requires a re-render before you can start editing. So for a lot of you, I'm sure that's going to be a deal breaker because either your camera doesn't have gyro metadata in the first place, or you just don't want to go to the extra hassle, which I totally understand. But for me, it's actually worth it a lot of the time to use gyro stabilization. And here's the reason why. I can get more stable footage with gyro than I could even with the best gimbal. Because what gyro is doing is it's computationally analyzing your footage. And it's saying, oh, here's a jerky movement. I see a sudden movement here. I'm just going to smooth that out and turn it into a curve. Unlike post-stabilizing with warp stabilizer, it doesn't get tripped up if you have, for instance, a lot of subjects occluding the frame like this. So you may be wondering why even use the gimbal at all if you're just going to gyro stabilize in post. Why not just go handheld and then do the gyro in post and take out all the shakes that way? Well, it's because you'll have to crop your image a lot more if you start off handheld because there's more shake, and the more shake you take out, the more you have to crop it. The second reason is because you will have to increase your shutter speed if you don't use the gimbal because, again, you will have more shake in your image and more visible motion blur. Gyro does not remove any motion blur. All it does is reframe your image. It crops it and reframes it in post, so any motion blur that was there in the first place is still there after you stabilize. So that's a long way of saying if you use a gimbal, you can keep your shutter speed at 180 degrees and then stabilize it in post with gyro, and most of the time you'll have no problem. So in a way, I guess this is more of an endorsement of gyro stabilization than of the Crane M3 itself, but they do kind of work together really nicely because the Crane M3 takes out about, 85–90% of the shake. And then that last little bit that's still in there, I take out with gyro stabilization. Another thing you should know about the Crane M3, if you're going inverted with an A7S III or some larger mirrorless camera on it, you probably won't be able to swing it upside down the normal way because the viewfinder will get in the way or some other part of your camera will hit the back motor of the gimbal, which means that you have to turn the whole gimbal upside down and then invert your footage in post. And for me, the only drawback here was the A7S III doesn't have facial recognition when it's inverted. When you turn the camera upside down, the autofocus will no longer recognize faces for whatever reason. So that means that I'm not able to use facial recognition when I'm shooting inverted with the Crane M3. The gimbal has some other accessories that I just didn't use. There's an audio module where you can plug in a microphone. It also has a built-in LED light that produces a little bit of light that you can use, I guess, if it's really dark and you're doing a selfie. I didn't try them out because I would never use those on a shoot. So will I use the Crane M3 even though it's far from the perfect gimbal? Actually, I think I will. Because it's so small, it's so portable, I imagine myself using it for travel shoots, of course, vlogging, any situation where I don't want to have a big gimbal in my backpack. Also, if I'm in a location where they don't explicitly allow cameras and I don't want to appear to be a professional videographer, this thing definitely does not look professional. It looks more like a selfie stick, so I will attract less attention. And the final way I see myself using this gimbal is on a monopod. Because it's really lightweight, it's easier to extend it up above my head. Okay, so that's my take on the Crane M3 mini gimbal. Hope you enjoyed this. Please click like and subscribe, and if you want to learn more from me, check out Unscripted Studio, which is my film school, link in the description, and especially the Gimbal Masterclass, where I teach everything I know about how to get perfect gimbal shots. So thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.